Promoting independence and self-care. So we have, we selected these based on that adolescent time period where there are a lot of changes, and it seemed like for a lot of the girls that we were working on, being independent in some of these things were problematic, is what we were hearing from families. Adaptive behavior, kind of like daily living skills, is sometimes hard. But we also wanted people just to be independent and feeling comfortable doing the activities they're going to do when they were no longer in the house and no longer had their mom or their parent involved, reminding them about this. So it was about, selecting things that are going to be important to them. Sometimes we have something that looks like what we say, fashion, finding my fashion. Well, it's not really about fashion, because what we want to do is help the individual feel comfortable and good about themselves, not put any kind of like clothing expectations on them. So, but we do have these, strategies to think more explicitly about what you're doing and making those decisions. Some people might have in the shower this morning thought about the weather and where they were going and thought about what they needed to wear and if it was clean, if they had to iron it. Those things, that's kind of going through that in the shower. Other people need more of a framework. I know I need a framework about organizing things, or if I was going to make kind of decide the order to do something. And so Gabby teaches us about conversation, but Gabby also teaches us about, some of these kind of like self-care things. What's the weather like? Where am I going? What am I going to be doing? Who's going to be there? What makes me feel good about myself? So it's more about, some of the difficulties we've had with some of our girls, wearing shirts that are pretty see-through. And so, wear a cami underneath that. Making sure we go to exercise places, so we really talk about, okay, what are you going to wear to the exercise place? You're going to wear tennis shoes, right? You're going to wear clothing that fits. Because I've had several girls tell stories about PE and splitting, having jeans on and splitting the back of their pants. So, we all have embarrassing moments, but I just feel like that, to give these girls, the edge or the tools that they need, because there might be a lot of those embarrassing moments, or just like, sometimes you can laugh about stuff like that, but a couple of the girls really had a time. I mean, we talk and we make it explicit. So when we say, test your outfit, right? And so we say, all right, raise your arms up, bend over, sit on the ground, and we're clear about, okay, well, is your crack hanging out? Is your belly showing? Okay, what are you gonna do there at school? You're gonna reach to your locker, you're gonna bend over. So we really try to help people think about that. And what we've learned is, I think we all have things that we do at our houses, kind of on our own time, where we're trying out those things. And we hear from, we encourage the peer volunteers to talk about what you do. Jessica has a term, break it down. So if the peers say, I just kind of decide, I know if I need a cami. Well, break it down. How do you know that? What do you do? And so those are the types of things, because it's important for us that we're not saying, here's your fashion tips. You should go dress like this. We're saying we want you to be comfortable and confident, but also try to avoid something that's going to make you feel less comfortable and confident, and kind of those things. Building self-determination. We have people identify their strengths, areas of growth. We interview the parent, because it's adolescents, for what we've been doing. We interview the parent ahead of time and find out from them what their interests are. And then we interview the participant after a couple sessions of getting to know them, and they get comfortable with us, and ask them, what do you do now? What do you want to do more often? What are some things you want to work on? We provide that information to them and say, here's what your family says you wanted to work on, here's what you said you wanted to work on, and then talk about how you set a goal. And we have lots of kind of steps that we go through. How would you measure that goal? And then we have people monitor that. So this is one of the ways that we individualize the program for the girls. Initially, in their books, we have this, what I did this week sheet, and so they're tracking these activities every day. They take it home and are tracking, did they do a social activity, or maybe there's some self-care things on here too. But then once we do the goal-setting activity, we tailor this self-monitoring tool to the person's goals, because that's what we want. We want someone to feel, we all want to monitor the things that we want and help people reach those outcomes. So that's another way that we tailor these things.
And I want to take a moment to kind of give you also a sense of kind of what the structure of the program looks like. So Renee really did a great job kind of introducing, these are kind of our core skills, and this is what the kinds of concepts that we're working on, but I also want to make sure you have a good understanding of kind of what it looks like when you sign on to participate in Girls Night Out. So like Renee mentioned, if you get in touch with us and you're interested in participating in Girls Night Out, what we'll do first is sit down and have kind of an intake interview where we're meeting girls and parents and understanding what their goals are and gathering some baseline information about where they're at. That helps us then design groups and put groups of people together that seem like they might mesh based on interest and age or even where they live within that greater Kansas City community. After that kind of initial session, then what you are kind of signing on for is to come for weekly sessions over about 12 weeks, and we meet for 2 hours once a week, usually on a weekday evening. And like Renee said, we start at our kind of med center as kind of the introductory night, but from then on, we're out in the community. And so we're meeting at a coffee shop one week, horseback riding another week, perhaps at the fitness center another week, at a park. And that schedule kind of varies based on the interests of the girls and the feedback that we get, the time of year that it is. But the general structure is these like weekly meetings where we meet for 2 hours at a time as a whole group, with a little bit extra time sometimes for our peers to get our peer mediators to get some training, and maybe also some extra time for kind of follow-up and conversation with any of our girls and their families as they're kind of checking out for the night. So, and that brings me also to let you know that usually this group is girls come on their own. Parents will often be providing transportation, but we encourage parents to kind of join together and connect and do some things either for themselves or get to know other parents in the group while the girls are meeting. So this is kind of happening, a group of 8 to 10 girls with one of us facilitating with the support of some of those trainees that we referenced, and being out and doing something together somewhere that's fun, but also kind of meaningful and helps us all grow in ways that we want to grow. So as part of that kind of model where you're coming, we're doing some feedback and follow-up on homework, introducing a skill, practicing a skill, and then really trying to implement the skill within that context that we're in, we think that our kind of model for the impact, or our impact cycle, is kind of what we talk about with this visual, is this kind of idea that as you help people feel better about themselves and gain more confidence and an increase in their positive self-concept, that they're also going to then be more likely to want to stay engaged and try and implement some of the things that we're talking about and practicing. And as you do more of that practice, then you're going to feel more masterful of those skills and feeling more kind of competent in these different situations that maybe before were pretty anxiety-provoking or stressful for you, and maybe didn't feel so successful in other environments. And then once you feel like you have more competence, then you're feeling better about yourself, which then makes you more available to keep moving forward and do the things that you want to do. So we see this as a very iterative process, and that kind of moves in multiple directions, but kind of the idea is these kind of underlying components are what we're trying to encourage and foster to help people grow in the ways that they want to.
And I thank you for explaining that. She's much more organized with the details of it. But one of the things that, you talked about parents, dropping off is, I love the stories of, so-and-so's not going to stay, she's not going to do that. And we're like, oh, yeah. And so I think those are some of the pieces that we can't show you, but to see that someone is not usually without their parent and will come to this group and feel comfortable and stay and do things that they've not done before, that feeds into this cycle, regardless of, maybe some of the things we're practicing, just coming and participating in this activity. And we go all over the place. People always ask, what about, oh gosh, you guys went there, was it loud? And so we really work on, taking people to places that we want them to be comfortable, but what tools do we need, or what strategies do we need so that someone could participate in something and feel comfortable instead of just avoid?